Iowa and Penn State face off in what is a very important battle for both teams, but more so for Iowa. When you're looking at where Iowa is headed, obviously the jokes about the offense continue to fly in, and for good reason. Pretty funny, actually. I think that it's just very entertaining. But this is a huge game. You're not necessarily going to blow Penn State out of the water by putting up a ton of points, but how you limit them will say a lot about this team as a whole. Nobody's going to care how many points you score if you limit Penn State to single digits or keep them under 20. You don't, it doesn't matter. Iowa can win this game. It's just a matter of how effective can they be offensively and what do they do to slow down this Penn State defense, which is not an easy task by any means. Iowa's defense is good in their own right. I think they're one of the best groups in college football, a group that does not get enough love for what they do. And keeping this game close is on the defense for the most part. I think that you have to be able to slow down a team that's averaging 43.7 points per game. This is an offense that features a number of explosive playmakers. The rushing attack itself was something that will be tough to stop, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But the defense has to find a way to slow this team down, limit how many points they score, and then just hope that their offense has somewhat of a pulse in this game because Penn State's defense is also very good and moving the ball against them will not be easy. So right now you have a proven offense that can move the ball and score points going against a really good defense against a defense or an offense that has struggled to score points and struggled to move the ball against a really good defense. And if you're going to put it on that superficial level, then you can see who's going to win this game pretty easily. But I think that Iowa has things that they can do to be able to keep this one close. The first thing is stopping the run. Penn State averages over 208 yards per game on the ground. Iowa's allowing just under 107. This is a group that prides themselves in stopping the run, that stops opposing teams from moving the ball efficiently on the ground. Penn State really wants to run the football. Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen are just two guys you need to know. Drew Aller could be a factor in that as well. I think Aller actually his legs could play a huge role in this, especially if the rushing attack isn't going to get going and the passing game needs to take on more of a role. His ability to run and scramble could make a big impact on this game as well. Then you talk about smart football. Last week was a terrible performance in terms of taking care of the football for Iowa. They had their 3 turnovers for the year. Penn State has yet to commit a turnover. Iowa can create turnovers. That is the biggest thing. Drew Aller is going to face, I think at times he struggled against West Virginia in underrated defense. Iowa's defense will present a number of challenges for him to navigate. And if he is able to do that, you're looking at a good Penn State team that has a legitimate claim to being one of the best teams in the Big Ten and one of the best in college football. Beating a team like Iowa, it just depends on how much you're able to do that. Taking care of the football is probably the biggest key in terms of getting to that goal. Pass game efficiency is also huge. I'm not necessarily worried about what Penn State can do, though Iowa's defense is really good. I'm worried about what Iowa can do because if you can't move the football, it's not going to matter what you do because Penn State's not going to be worried about the passing threat. And Cade McNamara must step up in a big way. He has to find a way to create more big plays. And it comes down to first establishing the run, finding a way to get the running game going, getting LaShawn Williams going, and getting those players to pick up big yards will set things up for the passing attack as well. And that's going to be difficult against Penn State's front seven. I think that Penn State has one of the best front units in college football, and that's not going to make life easy for an offense that is struggling right now. Finding a way to move the ball on the ground and finding ways to set up the play action pass will make life a lot easier for Cade McNamara in this offense. And when you look at McNamara coming into this year, you needed a quarterback that was going to step up. And I think we've had some moments where we've seen good things from Cade McNamara, but overall, we're kind of still waiting and waiting to see. And maybe he is a step up from what we saw last year, but how big of a step can it be? And this is a game that will tell us a lot. Drew Aller is a young quarterback that is coming into a huge matchup and one that for the first time really in his career. You get to see how he handles that spotlight. You get to see how he handles that pressure. And right now, he is showing that he can be one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and he has a big time arm that can make big plays in the moment. We saw against West Virginia, made a number of big plays with his legs, but also made some nice throws on the run, set up some really nice passes, and threw some important passes that were in clutch situations. He gets another chance to do that against Iowa, who's going to send multiple different looks, plenty of different pressures, and how he's able to handle that and stay calm and poised in the pocket could determine a lot about what this game ends up being. Is this going to be a blowout game for Penn State, or is Iowa going to hang around long enough to make Penn State sweat? That's probably the biggest question I have. And the quarterback play plays a huge role in that. And when you're going against some of these defenses, it's kind of tough to keep your composure because both defenses require you to be disciplined for 4 quarters. They require you to be patient. They require you to be efficient. Finding ways to score on them will be probably the biggest thing because, like I said, Iowa's offense has a lot of work to do. You're going against a really good defense in Penn State. Running the football with LaShawn Williams plays a huge role. Cooper DeJean can help by creating some turnovers. But again, this defense for Iowa is super underrated, and Penn State has to be patient and not try to just take every single chunk that they can get or not try to take every shot that they can get. Sometimes you will have to make a smart decision because Iowa's defense is much better than most people think. And Penn State knows that. So it's not about who's going to get the knockout punch in round one. It's who has the more of the endurance to avoid a knockout punch in the third or fourth quarter. And right now you're looking at an Iowa team that is struggling. I think that they are trying to find a way to get away from the memes, get away from the jokes, and the offense is the only group that can do that. The defense is doing their part once again. This is one of the best units in college football, but unless the offense gets things figured out, you're going to continue seeing the jokes, and most people aren't going to acknowledge what Iowa is doing on defense because of the struggles they have offensively. Penn State is on a mission this year. Everyone expects Michigan and Ohio State to be the top 2 teams in the Big Ten East, and they are hoping that they can make it some noise or cement their name into that conversation and make sure that everyone knows they are just as good as those teams. And running the football we mentioned will be a big key. Getting guys like Nichols, Singleton, and Katron Allen free will be huge. Now, you might have to do that in the passing game as well, because once again, Iowa's defense does not allow you to make big plays. They do not allow some of those big plays you're used to making against some inferior competition. This is a different challenge for this group. I think that their defense also plays a huge role. And you look at the amount of players they have that can go to the NFL, I don't think you're going to have too many problems. And it just comes down to how how much can they disrupt what Iowa does? How limited will Iowa's offense be? And right now, when you're looking at this game, it's hard to not pick against Penn State. I think that I think that Iowa's offense is just an absolute liability, and I don't see it changing against a team that has playoff aspirations. This is a team that has loftier goals than how many points can you score a game. They don't care about that. They have a goal of winning the Big Ten. They have a goal of making it to the college football playoff and winning a national championship. And right now, one of these teams is clearly better than the other. If an upset happens, it's because Iowa's defense continues doing what it's doing and Iowa's offense finally figures something out. But when you go against a team like Penn State, it just seems really unlikely that this is suddenly the game that Iowa puts it all together.